seat taken?
Nobody's in the seat, then I ain't taking, son.
So this is, Sabacc?
Sabacc.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to Sabacc the Block. This is our Star Wars weekly show talking about the Mandalorian specifically. I know everyone wants to talk about the Bad Batch, but we're here to cover Mando. I'm here with my boy RB3 in the house. RB3, we just came off episode 1 last week. Now we're here with episode 2, a little bit longer than last week's. How do you feel about this episode, and how do you feel about these two so far for the season?
Yeah, I mean, I like that it's moving at a good pace. You know, I feel like it's like moving pretty fast. We're already at the planet. We're already, pretty much almost at the objective that they set up in the last episode. So, and just in seeing Baby Yoda / Grogu's development, I feel like that's also moving fast too. We kind of lightly joked last week about, we can't wait to see Grogu do some flips, or we can't wait to see him get into like that teenage or adult, like, Yoda expectation of like using the Force, but in this episode, Grogu kind of showed out, like in a couple of different instances. He did some flips. He was taking out baddies. He flew all the way back to Bo-Katan by himself with the help of the droid. That droid was completely useless, by the way. Like, what was up with that droid? But yeah, otherwise, it was fun seeing the development of Grogu again. As me not watching Book of Boba Fett, I still do feel like I missed out on like a whole chapter here. So I probably am going to have to go back and watch Book of Boba Fett and see what I missed out. But otherwise, yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing here.
You're right about the pace, man. I really do feel like I was so afraid this whole premise of the Living Waters thing was going to be like 7 episodes. And I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can handle like, all right, we got to go to Mandalore, but first I got to stop here. And I was like, oh no. He's on Tatooine, now he's going to go somewhere else and then go somewhere else. But no, he went straight to Mandalore in this episode, and he took a bath in the living waters. So we finally got that out of the way, and we can finally move on from the apostate status that he's currently facing with his watch cult, like Bo-Katan calls it. But essentially with the watch, he's all good now. If anything, I think we should just get right to the ending, because if anything, what this episode is implying is that Din is about to reach legend status.
Right.
He's about to turn into like the first Mandalore, man. He's about to turn into Mandalore the first.
Because he's already wielding the Darksaber. So
yeah,
like crack it out for like the first time in like an offensive sense during this episode. So he's definitely owning up to like the legacy, because if I'm not mistaken, Sabine held it before Mandalorian did, and obviously Bo-Katan held it. Then Moff Gideon had his hands on it. So now Mando, but it's like him also being the one that, like you said, is the traditional, the watch, the fundamentalist. So he's going back to the OG traditions. Yeah, it seems like it's going to be something, or it can mean absolutely nothing too. Like maybe that's the theme of this season, is like, what's the missed expectations, because I feel like when he got to Mandalore and he realized that the planet wasn't cursed, and he realized that the air wasn't toxic and Bo-Katan was right the entire time, some of that zealousness kind of disillusioned from him a little bit. So I feel like maybe the theme of this season might be, he thinks he's like super powerful and super elite, but really he's just the same Mandalorian he was before.
Maybe, but if there's one thing that I know, is that what he currently is facing, and by facing I mean what is going to be on his shoulders right now after doing the Living Waters routine or ritual, whatever you want to call it. He's now confronting the mythological, legendary, iconic Mythosaur, which is so mythic that it's called Mythosaur. Like, this thing is so legendary that some people don't even think it exists because it's so ancient. It's like it's like finding a T-Rex nowadays and just being like, yo, there was a T-Rex living in some cave this whole time. It's that crazy. So the fact that that mythosaur was living in the living waters, and that there's an implication that possibly it's going to be coming on the side of Din. At least that's kind of the hint, right? At least that's what I got from what Bo-Katan said, where she said it can be tamed, or it was tamed by the first Mandalore. So the first thought I thought of was like Din is gonna be having a mythosaur on his side. He's gonna be riding Godzilla.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's just like, you know, me, I'm gonna show my Avatar love bias here. It's like when Jake Sully got on the Tanuk in the first
Yeah,
one,
yeah, yeah.
and
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
yeah, it came back to the people and they realized he was really the dude, that dude.
I think that's what's happening with this. I think Din is gonna come back to the watch. He's gonna come back possibly with the mythosaur and be like, yo, I'm the king. Straight up. Like, I think it's going to be something like that or something crazy, because I really do feel like the introduction of what the mythosaur is so iconic. It's literally the first symbol that we see on Boba Fett in the original Empire Strikes Back. It's that skull creature that we see. I don't know if you know what I'm referring to, but this is what Mandalore is specifically known for, regardless of all the other creeds, regardless of all the other houses, like House Ren, which is Sabine's house, or House Kryze, which is Bo-Katan. This is the one to rule them all. This is literally like some Targaryen stuff that we're currently facing with this show, which I really love, because it does have a little bit of Game of Thrones if you watched Rebels and if you watched Clone Wars. But now that Din is currently facing that, I'm excited, man. I really do feel like I love where this show is going. What do you feel like the conflict is going to head?
Yeah, I'm not exact, you know, I don't know, because I feel like, yeah, it could go in a lot of different directions, right? It could have, and the fact of like like you said, he's gonna end up taming that Mr. Zor, you know, Mrs. I don't know how to pronounce it correctly. He could end up taming it, he could end up fighting it and having to like kill it, you know what I mean? Like that could end up being, but that is, you know, I don't know. I mean, I still like I still don't, you know, a lot of people online are speculating that the armorer might be the villain, the low-key villain of this whole season, that she's kind of setting up Mandalorian, or she's setting up Din Djarin to go on this journey, almost like this self-sacrificial, you know, thing that she knows almost nobody could survive, and she's sending him along that way to do it. And I feel like maybe that is going to come back to a head. Like he's going to come back to everything, and he's like, yo, I did the bath, I fought the creature and everything's good, and Armor is still gonna be like, nah, son, you still ain't part of the community, still ain't one of the watch, and then that's gonna lead to some sort of conflict like that too.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is, except I actually think the opposite of the mission. I think she sent him on the mission not expecting him, not like trying to make him not go on the mission, I guess is what I'm trying to say. When she kept saying it's cursed, you can't even breathe, like you won't even get there, you're going to explode once arriving in the atmosphere. Like she kept hyping it up to the point where when Din arrived, he's like, this isn't even cursed, it's not poison. Like he kept saying it, like trying to be like, wait a minute, the armor, either she's lying on purpose to like keep everyone in line inside her cult, or she's like trying to keep me away specifically because she knows I have the dark saber. Like there's something fishy with her that I definitely feel like is going to come back. I don't know if there's going to be an initial conflict between Bo-Katan and Din, or if it's going to be between Bo-Katan maybe and Din teaming up against the armor, and maybe that's how it's going to be. But either way, I do feel like there is an inevitable clash of Mandalorians that is going to happen. I think is it Pre Vizsla? I think is his character, Jon Favreau's Mandalorian character.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think he's going to join the armorer's side, and I think it's going to be him, those two versus those two, and them trying to find other Mandalorians to join their side, and eventually have a civil war to try and reclaim Mandalore. Maybe repopulate the planet.
That's interesting. Yeah,
I don't know, man. I feel like it's exciting. I really do, and I love the additions of what you said Grogu has done this episode. He really did show up and show out. by calling for help and by flying out on his own. How do you feel about where we could see him by the end or by the middle of the season? His arc, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think he is going to grow up. He's going to embrace. You know, it's funny. They had that conversation, Bo-Katan and Grogu. I guess it wasn't really a conversation. She was more talking to him. But how, you know, back in the day, Jedi and Mandalore used to fight hand in hand, and how they used to, you know, join forces and stuff like that. And I had to, you know, just doing research, I went back and read up like on the dark saber and like the history of it all, and how it was like a Jedi art, you know, ancient Jedi artifact, and that was adopted by Mandalore. So I'm kind of thinking that, like you implied like last episode is gonna kind of end up being him, you know, Grogu growing into Mandalorian culture, becoming a Mandalorian himself. But I also think it is gonna play with, in the same way that it's playing with Din Djarin's identity as a Mandalorian, is going to play with Grogu's identity as a Jedi. And I think, you know, we're going to see him, you know, be expected to use the Force or use the Force in certain points. Like we saw him in the beginning, he tried to save Mando by himself by just, you know, opening the thing, but he just didn't have it. So I think the development of the Force and learning to embrace both sides of his of the balance is what's going to be his arc throughout the season.
That's really smart. I know someone else said that last season, but you're totally spot on. The possibility of Grogu representing the Mandalorian Jedi, literally both, right? Where he's a Mandalorian and a Jedi, all wrapped into one, with the Force powers and with the creed and with the backing of his people and of his culture, which is going to be traditional Mandalorians. I think that's a huge possibility for where his character can go. I'm excited, man. I really do feel like this episode was better than the first. I at least I feel.
Yeah,
I feel like it definitely gave me a little bit more to chew on than the first episode did. Where the first episode was more like, here's Mandalorian hanging out with Grogu, and this one is more like, hey, let's move towards where we're headed, which is this Living Waters plot that they developed. But I'm super excited for what's to come, and I feel like sky's the limit as far as what they can create from these episodes out, because they only gave these two to critics. They only gave, I don't know if you know that. So there's no one knows what's going to come, is essentially what I'm saying. Usually, you know, they give us like 4 or 5 episodes, but they gave critics 2 episodes to talk about. But any final thoughts on this episode, RB3?
Yeah, no, it's looking good. I will say, like, just a small detail, like I do like the animation that they're using for the robotic features of the robots, like a little mixture of stop motion animation.
I do catch that,
yeah, especially when Mando got trapped up by the big one. I'm like, oh freak, what is this? It almost looked like it was like a Play-Doh looking thing, but it was still like a little CGI. I don't know, it was a nice mixture of the visual effects. I like that. And like, you know, even though, again, we talk about Andor, you know, and we rave about Andor and how great it is, this show is also visually beautiful too. Like there's mad times I'm looking at this show, I'm like, wow, these shots, like everything in this feels real and textured and all the way through. In the same way that Andor feels real because they filmed on real locations and they used a lot of practical stuff, this feels real because they brilliantly used a lot of nice CGI and practical effects. You know, just they married it really nice in this one. So I appreciate the what we're looking at so far.
Also, I want to give a shout out to seeing Bo-Katan show out. I really do feel like, right? Because I feel like we always think
those little guys that was trying to eat them.
Yeah, because I feel like we always think about Mando kicking ass and how he's such a badass. But I was like, damn, low key, Bo-Katan caught more bodies than Mando did, and she did it easier. I think her little shield helps a lot. I think that shield is dope. No, her shield, right? The way it comes out, I think it's awesome. And the way she handled the darksaber, low-key, 10 times better than Mandalorian did. Did you notice that? Where he still struggles in picking it up, and she was just
heavy.
like,
to him it's heavy. To him, he's not familiar with that weight, especially when it gets like out of the holster. So she's definitely familiar. She's been holding it, you know, for the longest. She got that familiarity with. I also like how she also just tracked those 2 guys that were crawling above, like when they were walking into the cave. Like I was like, how did she have any idea of like how that was gonna go? But yeah, she, you know, she just has that instinct. Shout out again, Katie Sackhoff. You know what I mean? Back at killing it in that role. So
it's awesome to see, man. It's really cool. And the way she's like, I was thinking about this last night. rewatching the episode, the way she's kind of used to this, right? This is kind of her archetypal role that she's done. She usually plays like the female badass character in different movies or
Battlestar Galactica and all that other stuff.
yeah, she's done it. Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of what this is what she does, man. She's just really good at it and she's just killing it. And I feel like Pedro is leaning this way too now. Eventually he'll head this way with his characters and his archetype with Joel now, with Red Viper, who's like the biggest badass in Game of Thrones. With what else? Him in
Unbearable Massive Weight.
him in freaking Kingsman, Golden Circle, that terrible movie.
Yeah. Are they still doing more of those?
No, I hope not. But he's like, well, that movie was so bad, bro. I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah.
He kind of kills these like kind of badass roles now. He's kind of doing it well. He's doing it right. I want to give him props too. Oh yeah, Narcos.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. He kills all these roles that he's currently in. So shout out to Pedro. I'm loving this show so far. Let us know what you guys thought of this episode of The Mandalorian in the comments down below. Where do you feel like this arc is headed? Where do you feel like the Mythosaur is heading? Let us know all that good stuff in the comments down below. You can follow me at Squad Leader Race and RB3. Where can everyone follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Director RB3 and stream Timestamp on Amazon Prime.
You can follow us at First Cut TMO as well. Make sure you follow us at First Cut TMO on TikTok as well. Either way, guys, for Sabacc the Block and for the First Cut crew, we're going to be peacing out. So deuces.